You know that feeling when you're walking in your city and it just feels like it was built for cars, and you're kind of just in the way? Well, today we're diving into the story of Bogotá, Colombia, a city that was literally choking on its own traffic and decided to do something completely radical about it. This is one of the most incredible urban turnarounds you'll ever hear about.
And let's start with this quote, because this idea is at the heart of everything they did. It's a pretty bold statement, right? It says that a city's real values, its commitment to equality, to human dignity, it's all right there, written in the concrete of its sidewalks. It's not about how many lanes your highways have, but about how you treat everyone, especially the most vulnerable.
But to really get what a huge deal this transformation was, we have to go back in time. We need to see just how bad things had gotten. So let's jump back to the early 1990s, to a city that was pretty much at its breaking point.
I mean, just try to picture this. We're talking about total chaos. Traffic wasn't just a minor annoyance. A citywide survey named it the #1 worst problem. The bus system was a complete free-for-all. Sidewalks? Oh, those were just free private parking lots. And on top of all that, the streets were incredibly dangerous. Public space, for all intents and purposes, had been completely surrendered to the car.
So, how do you even begin to fix a city that's this broken? Well, as it turns out, it took two very different, and I mean very unconventional mayors, who one after the other set the stage for a full-blown revolution.
First up was a guy named Antanas Makis. He was a mathematician and a philosopher, and he focused on changing the city's software, people's attitudes and behaviors. Right after him came Enrique Peñalosa, an economist who was all about changing the hardware, the actual physical streets, the parks, the transit systems. Totally different methods, but they were both aiming for the same goal.
And Makis's approach, well, it was something else. Instead of just passing more laws, he hired mimes. I am not kidding, mimes, to go out and silently make fun of drivers who were breaking the rules. He handed out red and white cards, just like a soccer ref, so people could give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to what other people were doing in public. These were funny, symbolic actions meant to make people stop and think. And you know what? It worked. Just look at that approval rating.
So then Peñalosa comes in and he's got a totally different philosophy. He argued that, look, changing mindsets is great, but if you really want to change behavior for good, you have to change the physical environment first. You can't ask people to act differently in a city that's basically designed to encourage bad behavior. So his focus was on huge, tangible projects that would literally reshape the city's priorities.
So, what did this new philosophy of people first actually look like out on the streets of Bogotá?
This quote was their North Star. Every single policy was run through this filter. Does this project help a child? Does it help an elderly person? Does it help a poor citizen? That simple question became the yardstick for everything, and it led to some incredibly bold and, often very controversial decisions.
The strategy itself was pretty simple, but man, was it powerful. First, they restricted car use during rush hour, instantly cutting traffic by 40%. Second, they didn't just paint a few bike lanes. They went all in on a massive, connected, citywide network. And third, they literally went to war for pedestrians, putting up barriers to take back sidewalks and restoring over 1,000 parks.
And we're not talking about a token effort here. They built 270 kilometers of high-quality, dedicated bike paths. This was a clear, unambiguous message: the bicycle is a legitimate, respected, and now safe way to get around this city.
But as you can imagine, this didn't happen without a major fight. When the city started putting up physical barriers to stop cars from parking on sidewalks, some business owners who saw that as free parking for their customers fought back, and sometimes pretty violently. It's a huge reminder that reclaiming public space isn't just about urban planning. It's a political battle, plain and simple.
Okay, but the single biggest project, the absolute crown jewel of this whole transformation, was a revolutionary new public transit system. It was called TransMilenio.
Now, instead of building a subway, which would have cost a fortune and taken decades, Bogotá went with something called Bus Rapid Transit, or BRT. The easiest way to think about it is like a subway on wheels. The buses have their own dedicated lanes, so they never get stuck in traffic. You pay your fare at sleek stations before you board, and you get on and off at platform level. No climbing stairs. It is fast, it is efficient, and it costs a fraction of a rail system.
And the impact on safety? It was immediate and just staggering. I mean, just look at this chart comparing traffic deaths on regular roads versus the new Transmilenio corridors. It's not even close. The difference is night and day.
Let that number just sink in for a second. A 93% reduction in deaths. on the city's most dangerous roads in just 5 months. This wasn't just an improvement. This was a life-saving transformation.
And here is the real kicker. This is how you know you built something great. The system was so clean, so fast, so reliable that it wasn't just for people with no other option. A full 20% of its riders were people who own cars and voluntarily chose to leave them at home and take the bus instead. That is the ultimate sign of success.
And here's a big reason why they switched. It wasn't just safer, it was a whole lot faster. Commute times were cut by almost a third. The system literally gave people back hours of their lives every single week.
So it all sounds like a perfect success story, right? A city transformed, problems solved, happy ending. Well, not exactly. Because transforming a city isn't a one-and-done kind of deal. The journey was far from over.
If you zoom out and look at the data over a longer period, you see something really interesting. You see this amazing steep drop in traffic deaths for about a decade. Incredible progress. But then, after 2006, it stalls. The numbers just level off. They hit a plateau. And what that plateau shows us is so important. It shows that those huge early victories weren't the end of the story. Keeping a city safe and livable requires constant effort. It needs continuous investment and the political will to keep adapting as new challenges pop up. You can't just build it and walk away. So what are the big lessons we can take from Bogotá's story? First, that real radical change is possible, but it absolutely requires bold leadership to kick things off. Second, you have to tackle both the hardware, the infrastructure, and the software, the culture. And maybe most importantly, Bogotá proved that when you design a city that works for your most vulnerable citizens, you end up with a city that works better for absolutely everyone.
And that leaves us with one final thought. Bogotá showed the world what's possible when a city makes a conscious choice to prioritize its people over cars. So it's worth asking yourself, the next time you're stuck in traffic or walking down the street, what is my city prioritizing? The answer is being built or not built all around you.